Hey, what up, YouTube? Want to make this video today. Since things have slowed down a little bit, for the most part, you don't really have much coming from the Mountain West. You don't really have much coming from the Pac. Those are really the only two conferences you will be hearing any updates from, because those are the two looking to add teams and figure things out. So you're not really gonna hear like, oh, the AAC is adding da da da, or the Big 12 is adding. Like, you're not going to hear those things, right? Any power conference right now at the moment, um, I don't really believe any of them are looking to expand. You have the Big Ten, which I consider they're kind of their max at the moment, right? And then even then, eventually, the Big Ten, I didn't really go into exactly what year their media rights contract will expire, but eventually, right, they'll be working on a new deal. The Big Ten will almost 100% sure, like whatever the dollar sign is they'll get is going to be something ridiculous, right? So everybody's going to get paid in the Big Ten. That's a non-issue. Same thing with SEC, right? We know that they added Oklahoma, Texas. They're Gucci. If Florida State was looking to move, yeah. Now here's the interesting part about it, right? Could Florida State still leave the ACC? Yeah, sure. It's Florida State. They could have a complete winless season, which would be insane. Like, they could just straight up, for the most part, most people consider this season horrible for them, but they could probably straight up lose everything and still get into another power conference before a lot of other schools would. So it's kind of crazy that things work like that, but they do. They just do. We've seen some big name schools have not good seasons and then bounce back. Like, I remember for a hot minute in the Big 12, Texas was not performing to Texas standards. They just weren't. Like, Texas was not really all that great for some years. Like, they were okay. Like, were they still making a bowl game? Were they still reaching bowl eligibility? Yeah. But overall, like, Texas, for some seasons, Texas wasn't the best team in the Big 12. There was a stretch where Oklahoma definitely was way more dominant. Then you even have some other teams that were down in the Big 12 that were putting up numbers. Like, TCU had a run. Kansas State at one point was on a run. Baylor was having a few crazy seasons, right? There were years where Texas just wasn't Texas. And then we fast forward to now, Texas is Texas again. So these power schools, power conference teams, they've been power conference teams. They've been the big state school for a lot of years now. This is just what it is. Any small school, any group of 5 school, group of 6, whatever you're considering it now, group of school, right? That's the end game. That's the end goal. It is to make it to a power conference. You want to get there. You want to get there by any means necessary. You want to get there. That's the reason why I was like, as an as an NIU fan, right? So it's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. Right? You got to realize these are NIU fans saying this. These are NIU fans. Words will come out their mouth. It'll never happen. That's the one thing that kills me. It tears me up. It's like, how can you be a fan of the team and your mindset is straight up like, it'll never happen? Whether that is true or not, how can you be a fan and just not, right? I'm not saying, oh, I'm losing sleep. I'm not losing sleep over whether NIU makes it to the Big 12 or not. That's not what's going on. I'm not losing sleep over that. It is a hope. It is a dream. Even if NIU joined the Big 12 for football only, the amount of money that they would make would change the program, right? Generally, typically, when you don't join as a full member, you get a smaller percentage of the cut. You get a smaller percentage of the cut. So when you join as football only, smaller percentage. When you join as a full member, you get a full piece. The power conferences and these media right payouts and all this stuff, right? Just media rights. I'm not even looking at the payout that conferences get for the college football playoff. I'm not even talking about payouts that conferences get for bowl games and all this stuff. Purely just for media rights. Power conferences, they make an amount that changes everything. They make amounts that change everything. The moment UCF, Cincinnati, schools like that have essentially worked their way from being a group of school and have worked their way up to power schools, like, I'm sure they could be the first ones to testify and be like, yo, we've made it to the promised land. Will Cincinnati ever make it to the Big Ten? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. Is Cincinnati better suited regionally, whatnot, to be in the Big Ten? Yeah, sure. Like, look at where they are. But Cincinnati, to make it to the Big Ten, they would need an opening to pop up in the Big Ten, which I don't know or really see that happening like anytime soon. They would need the opening, and then they also would need to hit a point where they are doing pretty damn good in the Big 12. Like, the Big Ten wants to bring in big names. I'm not saying Cincinnati isn't a big name. Cincinnati's in a power conference. What am I to sit there and say that, oh, well, Cincinnati ain't nobody? Who am I to say that, right? But if I'm the Big Ten, they're looking for those schools that are more favored in the national rankings. They're looking for the schools that are the strongest in the conference, things like that. For the longest, a lot of schools, a lot of conferences, a lot of the movement that we have seen happen, a lot of people probably didn't understand why it was happening. In today's world, it's clear cut, the moves that can be made. You're typically not going to see a school leave a conference with a really high media rights payout and drop down. Like, you're taking a pay cut by doing that. It's all about money. And that's the scary part about college football. It's all about money, right? We hear about this whole, I forget what the term was, what they were calling it. But basically, I mean, we've been hearing about it for years, where they would create like a mega conference type of thing that essentially, I believe, would be essentially all the power conference schools. So there's 4 power conferences, right? Let's just take all of y'all, put all of y'all together, divide y'all up whatever way. The money's going to be this, you know, they might have some sort of tier system or something, right? That's probably how they would do it, right? So that way, you know, like Alabama would probably make more than BYU. Like, Alabama and BYU are not going to get the same payout wise, but they're still going to be getting millions. And when I say millions, I mean in the tens of millions. Like, for instance, BYU, They might be getting 30 million. Alabama might be getting like 50 million. That's just how it's going to work. But most of these schools, they're not going to complain about it. They just aren't. This would be one of the biggest, most crippling things in college football history, because literally you're now going to create a situation where you're not going to see any group of whatever schools really get to play any of these big power conferences anymore, or power conference teams, even though there's teams in these power conferences that aren't even as good as some of the group of 6 schools. Boise State, if Boise State, any given year, let's be honest, any given year, if Boise State is playing Iowa State 20 times, I have Boise State beating Iowa State probably 15 out of those 20 times. I'm just being straight up. I got Boise State winning that matchup. Boise State's playing Kansas 20 times. Boise State might win 20 out of 20 times. All right? I'm just being straight up. NIU, if NIU played Kansas 20 times, that might be a solid 50-50. NIU might win 10, Kansas might win 10. NIU might win 11, Kansas might win 9. Kansas might win 11, NIU might win 9. But what I'm trying to say is there's schools in power conferences that are either evenly matched or not even as good as group of conference teams. NIU should have, with everything in my soul, NIU should have beat North Carolina State. NIU should have beat North Carolina State. But at the end of the day, the history books are going to show they didn't. Statistically, everybody can sit back and look at that game and be like, NC State, what was going on with them? Because statistically, they got beat. Where did NIU lose? They lost the turnover game. And they lost the turnover game in horrible positions. If NIU has, because they had 3 turnovers, the last one, basically garbage time turnover. That one didn't really matter. That was like literally the last play of the game. Didn't matter. But the 2 turnovers they had, let's say NIU is in NC State's red zone, and then those turnovers happen, and they get stopped at like the 25 on the return, or they get stopped at the 10, or what, right? Now NC State has to work their way down the field. If anybody watched that game, the 2 turnovers that happened was literally, one of them was a fumble recovered for a touchdown. The other one was a fumble, and NC State was set up at the 5-yard line. There was no way for NC State not to score. That's just how it was going to go. 14 points. That easy, that quick, that simple. Back to the point I'm making. This mega conference would essentially see only power conference teams really playing power conference teams for these non-conference games. But then again, this whole I don't even know if it's necessarily a mega conference they're trying to make. It's more of a deal that is trying to be worked out. Where, yeah, you would see more marquee matchups. It would be less group of 5 or group of 6 versus power 4 for non-con games. You would see a Northwestern, you'd see more Northwestern versus Dukes, right? That was a non-conference game. That's what you would see. Northwestern versus Duke, Northwestern versus Vanderbilt, Northwestern versus BYU, Northwestern versus, because I just went through all 3. I mean, but that's what you would see. You would see that, but you wouldn't see a Northwestern versus an NIU. You wouldn't see a Northwestern versus a Ball State. You wouldn't see a Northwestern versus a Central Michigan. You wouldn't even see Northwestern versus a school in the AAC. That's how this would be set up, because the AAC is not a power conference school. So even though you have Memphis, Tulane, schools like that in the AAC for right now, those schools would not play these other schools. It would not be a Tulane versus an LSU, which I'm pretty sure that's an actual rivalry game. But the powers that be, maybe that's an exception. Maybe they would be like, okay, Tulane, you got money. Tulane, you're a brand. Tulane, we like you. We'll let you play LSU. Like that's fine. Y'all can schedule that one. But you won't see an NIU versus Notre Dame ever again. You wouldn't see an NIU versus Nebraska. You're not getting NIU versus Iowa State, Kansas, any of those schools. They would be working to cut all of that out. This is the world we're living in. But that deal is, from what I'm hearing, that's something that's actually, people are sitting down and meeting, and ex-Disney execs and this, that, the third, and yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you, this media rights stuff, media rights, all of this is centered around media rights. It is around viewership. It's around advertisement. It's around marketing. It's around all these things. Because you get more viewers. Sorry about that. You get more viewers based on the name of your school. Your brand matters. Your name matters. Your media market matters. That's a big one. Your media market matters. If Syracuse was a top 25 football team, if Syracuse was like really good at football, they could have some viewership easily. Like if Syracuse year in year out was considered a top football team year in year out, they're right there in the New York media market. Syracuse would have the numbers. Syracuse, I'm sure, has numbers, but those numbers, like, if Syracuse was better, like if Syracuse was a top 10 ranked school, the viewership numbers we would see for a Syracuse football game on a Saturday would be exponentially higher because of the amount of TVs that are in that region, that are in that market. New York City, I would say New York City, I was going to say New York City is a basketball city, but that's not even true. You got the Jets and the Giants. Technically, they play in New Jersey. We all know. Right, but I can't even say that, oh, well, the New York City is a basketball city. They're basketball, they're baseball, they're football. It's a sports town. It is a sports city. So these markets, like I said, these markets mean a lot. NIU. NIU finds itself a dream, a hope, a prayer to try to see themselves to, like Big 12, like I said, pipe dream. But even if NIU were ever able for football only to join the Big 12, they would then see an amount of money that they've never seen before, and it would change everything. Even if the standard payout in the Big 12 was like $25 million, and let's say they were like, well, if you join for football only, the payout would be $18 million or something like that. Who knows? That would be I mean, the amount of money that would be mind-numbing. compared to what NIU has ever seen. Like, you have to understand this. People have to understand this. These payouts are a lot. They are a lot. The big thing right now, let's go back to a more realistic setting. The big thing right now when it comes to NIU, like I said, I'm not saying rumor. Let's go more into speculation. I don't know if a rumor, because anybody can come up with a rumor. Speculation, that sounds more like a confirmed rumor. I don't know. Somebody define that for me. I know what speculation is, but at the same time, I need like a more concrete. Like, should I be saying speculation or should I be saying rumor still? NIU has interest from the Mountain West Conference. Because NIU has interest from the Mountain West Conference, does that potentially open the door for interest from other conferences? And when I say other conferences, you can aim as high as the Big 12, even though more than likely that's not going to happen. But other conferences being a also rebuilding Pacific Athletic Conference, and then also the AAC, American Athletic Conference. The Mountain West is starting the snowball. The Pac, at any moment, if they wanted to, they could also approach NIU for football only. But the Pac, I mean, it seems like they're going a very specific route with things. The AAC, on the other hand, they're not necessarily looking to add anybody. Their fear is more of teams getting taken. Their fear is losing teams. So you're creating an interesting situation. In the Pac, they seem like they're trying to make a hard push. Like I said, I want to say it was one of my earlier videos. It might have been episode 2, maybe even episode 1. No, I want to say maybe episode 2. Can't remember which one, but one of them episodes. It went more in depth about what is it that the Pac strategy is. And like I said, I truly believe, like, these are my pure thoughts, and what confirmed these thoughts was the fact that, yes, I have been on social media, Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. There are other people who had the same exact thought. The Pac is going to make the attempt to increase their value by not only targeting strong football programs, but they've realized in the situation they're in, they have the chance to target strong Division I basketball programs. And they showed that by adding Gonzaga to the conference. Gonzaga, once again, does not even have a football team, but they're a full member of the Pac now. Gonzaga is a basketball powerhouse. So because Gonzaga is a basketball powerhouse, there's a value add. Adding Gonzaga to the Pac, in all honesty, me truly, I believe that was a bigger addition than adding. I want to say it with my chest that was a bigger addition than adding Boise State. But like I said, in this situation, football is king. It gets weird. It gets a little weird because I'm like, okay, Boise State, Boise's in Idaho media market. Yeah, Idaho don't really got no strong media market. Like, that's just not a thing. The Boise media market is like, what is that? I don't know. But because that team is so damn good, because they've been able to develop a strong program, strong athletics, Boise even being in the Boise media market is able to be taken a little bit more seriously. In all honesty, the only reason Boise State may have not been in a power conference a long time ago was literally because of the media market. the media market, the alumni base, things like that, which is kind of petty because I would have added Boise State to the Big 12 over a few other schools, like being straight up. But that just goes to show you. Which may be another reason why NIU to the Big 12 is a pipe dream. Because if Boise State didn't get an invite, if Boise State hasn't been able to make it into the Big 12 or anything like that, then why the hell would they skip Boise State and take NIU? But the thing with NIU has always been, are we Boise State? No. But have we been able to compete in football up there with Boise State? Yeah. Are we Boise State? No. But have we had some really good seasons? Hell yes. Have we won conference championships? Hell yes. Have we been doing the things that you want a football program to do? Hell yes. And here's the beautiful thing. NIU's been doing it with little to no resources in comparison to a lot of other schools. Like, let that sink in. You are building, or they've been able to build, a strong football footprint with little to no resources in a world that has the transfer portal, NIL, all these things. NIU has been able to be successful without money. They've been able to. Players who play for NIU are not making millions of dollars. I don't know if anybody's really making a whole lot of anything. Even our star player, I don't know what NIL deal he may or may not have, but I'm not expecting it to. Some local car dealership may be throwing him something, who knows, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy at all. People have heard our coach get on interviews and this, that, and the other, and it's like, here's the difference between NIU and being at one of these big name schools. We're going to grow you not only as an athlete, but as men, as leaders, family atmosphere, all of that. It's all hands in, all hands on, all, right? That's the difference. You go to one of these big conferences, the players that they want on the field, those dudes are getting paid. Simple as that. The only other way you're getting paid a whole bunch of money is you're a top prospect. Right? So you're a 5-star prospect. Okay, yeah, you got some money coming. But then even then, here's the wild part. You can be a 5-star recruit and still end up not a starter. But you do got some NIL money. You do got you a brand new car. You got this, you got that. But then you don't, let's say you end up not seeing that field until your junior year or something crazy. Who knows? Versus you got dudes who come to NIU, like, man, you got a chance to start freshman year. It's best man in camp is who makes the field, right? That's who's getting the minutes. The guys in camp who show they deserve them starting minutes are the guys who are getting on the field. But the guys in general who show that they should be on the field, the coaches will get you in there some way. They're going to get you on that field. That's how NIU operates. Everybody has a job. Everybody's going, right? You're going to see the field. NIU, when it comes to the Mountain West, very interesting situation. Like I said, we don't got the money, and we've been able to build something without the money. That's the thing that always makes it interesting, and that should be the selling point, right? Boise State fans would be super pissed if NIU made it to the Big 12 before Boise did. Boise State fans would lose their minds. But it would be a lot easier to rebrand, if necessary, to rebrand NIU and market and do all those things that would need to be done and push the state of Illinois and primarily Chicago. Urbana-Champaign is hours away from Chicago. NIU, an hour and a half away. Northwestern, literally down the street. But NIU football, for a hot minute, has been better than Northwestern football. If NIU football had the same opportunity to be in the limelight, to be on some sort of stage, week in, week out, NIU football definitely would have surpassed Northwestern when it comes to recognition. But Northwestern is Northwestern. Northwestern, at the end of the day, is a Big Ten school. That's just what it is. What has been affecting and factoring into all of this has been the media rights deals that conferences make. So once again, like I said, we go back to Mountain West, the PAC, and based on what those two do, you can end up seeing an opening with the American Athletic Conference. Depending on how things go, you may see an opening with the Big 12. Things are they're gonna happen. And like I said, the Pac-12, their move has been, we're gonna add basketball powerhouses, which should then open some things up. Like I said, I was not the only person to go on social media or probably make a YouTube video or this, that, the other and express the same exact thoughts. That's why I was like, okay, I know I'm seeing the vision. Because I'm like, why would you add a basketball school when you're trying to build this conference? If you still don't understand the reason why the PAC is going the way they're going, well, the PAC doesn't have a media rights deal. They're trying to get a media rights deal with these networks. And at the end of the day, it's all about money, and there's things that factor into that. These networks, they care about visibility. Visibility means a lot. That's what it means. It means a lot. They want the media rights. They want viewership. They want TVs on their channel. That's what it's about. That's why NIU, like once again, for the probably third or fourth, fifth time I'm bringing it up, that's why NIU, that dream, the only thing that you could even maybe sell NIU onto the Big 12 is Chicago. Chicago. Branding and marketing. It's right there. NIU. Chicago's Big 12 team. Boom. There you go. It's a football town. Right? It's a football town. I hate when people say, oh, this city's a pro sports city. That don't even make the most sense. Like, it makes sense, but it don't make sense. Because almost every major city is going to be a pro sports city. Like, no shit. There's only so many places where pro sports don't exist. It's very limited. The more I think, it's very limited. Alabama, right? You don't have professional basketball. You don't have professional baseball. You don't have an NFL team. Shoot, yeah, everything is college. It's all college. Like, college is king, right? That's one of those few situations. But there's a reason why. Keep in mind, there is a reason why you have no professional sports there. You haven't had professional sports there for years. And because of that, the colleges you have slowly basically taken over. But there was always a reason why you didn't have professional sports there. Your major cities, in comparison to others, I want to say they just kind of aren't as attractive. Like, they just aren't. They aren't as attractive as other major cities in the South. Like, if Birmingham is your best shot, your best chance, it just, no. Mm-mm. It just ain't, right? You have minor league baseball, I want to believe, right? You might have this, you might have, but yeah, just when it comes to the major sports team level, it just ain't hitting. It just ain't hitting. Same thing can be said for Mississippi, right? We don't have a pro basketball, pro football, or pro baseball, right? They don't have any of the three. So college football is king. Simple as that. Arkansas, right? Here's the crazy part. Like, when you think about the SEC, that's probably what makes the SEC so strong. And I know I'm on a tangent right now, but that's probably what makes the SEC so strong. You have states and schools that are right, that don't have pro sports. So college sports are elevated even more because there's no pro sports. That they have to, their fandom all gets to go to the colleges down there, right? Until you get to other states that do have pro sports teams, right? You get to LSU, but you know that there's the New Orleans Saints, right? We know that. But even then, that's all they have. Like, there's no, actually, you know what? I'm lying. I was finna say they don't even have a basketball team. They do got the Pelicans. Baseball is what they don't have. There's no New Orleans baseball team. That they don't have. So yeah. Yeah. It's all about media rights. It's all about the cities trying to sell the city, the viewership, the TVs. That's what they care about. If the Big 12 added NIU, and they were like, NIU, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something interesting. NIU, we want to add y'all. We'll add you to the Big 12 on a trial for, let's say, 5 years. Probably not even that, like 3 years or something. 3 years. Your percentage of the payout will be this, which would probably still be more than the school has ever seen in the history of the school. Like, they would make more in 3 years. They would make more in 1 year being in the Big 12 than they probably would in the last 20 years of being in the MAC. Let that sink in. So if NIU was in the Big 12 for 3 years, football only, on a trial basis, right? And what they want to see is, if adding a school like NIU, football only, that's it, football only. We don't need any other sports. Football only, we add an NIU. We want your home games at Soldier Field, right? We want to play in the city because your stadium too small anyway. So we'll play in Chicago, but we want to run some marketing campaigns, ad campaigns, this, that, the other, in the city of Chicago and surrounding suburbs. And we want to do that 3 years. We want to, allow you all to build up your program in those 3 years. But we want to see in 3 years, what would the numbers look like when it comes to viewership? 3 years. We want to see what y'all can do. I'm more willing to take that bet that NIU will perform. The viewership is going to be there because NIU is performing. We'll get some new fans that we probably never had before, never attended NIU, any of that. But I don't know many Chicagoans who are necessarily, I'm pretty sure they would take a Saturday football game at Soldier Field. Why not? Let me get back on topic. Here's your pros and cons. Here's the pros and cons as to why NIU joining, whether it even be the Mountain West or the Pac, because you can sum it up to the same thing. You can, it's gonna be the same thing regardless. First pro, media rights payout is more. Simple as that. The Mountain West Conference and potentially the Pacific Athletic Conference, whatever they're gonna make in media rights is gonna be more than the Mid-American Conference, straight up. People have to understand that this is the reason why. The MAC, over the last 20 years, has been stuck in a deal with ESPN. And I don't know if it's a deal with ESPN and also CBS, or if CBS has like their own little deal with ESPN. So some of the games, right, have been CBS Sports Network, but most of our games are ESPN. And when I say ESPN, I don't mean like ESPN in the good way. I mean, they've been ESPN, like ESPN Plus. Like, our games are streaming. The part that sucks the most, especially this year, for some odd, sick reason, I want to say even our ESPN games, right? Our games that should be like on ESPN, right? Because that's the whole point of weekday action, is that the games, some of these games should end up on ESPN or ESPN2 at least. Even some of those games, when you check NIU's schedule for basically the rest of the season, except for like one game, I think, I want to say the vast majority of our games are going to be on ESPN Plus. That is sick. And not sick in a good way or dope way or cool. No. Sick in a bad way. Sickening. It's sickening. There is no reason why NIU, why are all these games basically being locked behind a streaming platform? That is gross. That is gross. You don't pay the schools barely anything, and then now you're just not even going to show them. That is sick. That is straight up disgusting. When you have a school like NIU, and yes, NIU shit the bed, but when you have a school like NIU that still at the end of the day beat the number 5 ranked team in America, they're currently 3-2. We should be 5-0. The Lord knows we should be 5-0, but currently 3-2. Why is that team being relegated to your streaming network for basically the majority of the rest of the season? Why are so many of these games for this conference being relegated to the streaming network? Truly sick and disgusting stuff. Because now what I think, and I haven't even checked it, but this is going off the top of my head, you have the MAC, you have Conference USA, and you have the Sun Belt Conference, all on a similar-ish deal. We know that ESPN also primarily has the Big 12 and AAC. But the Big 12 and AAC, almost the majority of their games for the most part, I want to say are Saturday games. I don't know how many weekday games. And when I say weekday, I really mean like Friday. I don't think the Big 12 has any weekday games. Maybe they got suckered into one because it's ESPN, and that's what they do. Same thing for the AAC. I don't know how many weekday games they have, but I know for a fact they for sure have Saturday games, and they probably have some Friday night games, probably. And like I said, they've probably been suckered into some random Wednesday game. But because the MAC, Conference USA, and Sun Belt are all basically on the same deal with ESPN, right? With the Sun Belt, I believe Sun Belt is actually, out of those three conferences, they have the better deal of the three. Like, the Sun Belt Conference is getting a better payout than the MAC and Conference USA. Conference USA getting the worst payout of the three. But the MAC, and this is why it's sick and depressing and fucked up, the MAC has been the most solid, put together, consistent conference of those conferences to have a deal with ESPN, yet they're not the conference that has the better payout. The Sun Belt has lost teams, added teams, done this, done that. Oh, here y'all go. Y'all deserve this nice little payout. You know, y'all deserve a better payday. You could say they just are in better locations, which may be the truth. And that's what I'm getting at. The Mountain West Conference in the PAC would significantly give you a better payout than the MAC. The Sun Belt Conference gets a better payout than the MAC because the Sun Belt Conference has schools in multiple locations that, for the most part, are just better media networks, like just better media markets. That's the word I'm looking for, media markets. I haven't really sat there and done the research on, like, oh, what's the best media market? Like, what school has the best media market in the Sun Belt? Haven't sat there and done it. Don't even feel like doing it. But what I can say, like I said, if I remember correctly, the Sun Belt has more schools than the MAC, and they're a bit better spread out than the MAC. The biggest issue with the Mid-American Conference, and people have to understand this, because NIU fans will sit there and they'll say this out loud and they won't understand why it's an issue. The MAC is basically a ton, like the MAC East is basically Ohio. The MAC East, repeat, even though we don't have divisions anymore, the MAC East was basically Ohio. You have 12 schools. 12 schools, not including UMass. Those 12 schools, if we divide them back up into what they were, the East was literally Buffalo and 5 Ohio schools. 5 Ohio schools. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I just said Buffalo, so I need 5. Miami, Ohio, Akron, Kent State, Bowling Green. What is it? I say Miami, Ohio, Kent State, Bowling Green, Akron, and University of Ohio. Or is it Ohio University? Whichever one it is. I don't know if it's University of Ohio University. That's 5 schools. One division. One division was 5 Ohio schools and then Buffalo. Buffalo, New York. Once again, Bowling Green, Kent State, Akron, Miami, Ohio, Buffalo. If you can't see the issue with that, I don't know what to say to you. That's like the Sun Belt having a whole division of schools and it just being Florida teams. And even then, that might be a better situation than what the MAC had for the last 20 years. If we being honest. So you got one division that's like all Florida. So now you have your East Division. That might as well have just been Michigan. Because you have Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan. So you have 3 schools from Michigan in that division. And then, okay, let's add another Ohio team. So Toledo. Toledo ended up in the West. Even though Toledo, their biggest rival is Bowling Green, if I remember correctly, right? NIU fans view Toledo as rivals, but I don't think Toledo views us as rivals, if that makes sense, right? NIU and Ball State, that's more of an actual rivalry. Whereas, like, we view them as rivals, they view us as rivals. We're rivals. Even NIU and Miami, Ohio, have an actual piece of hardware that they play for. Technically, that's a rivalry, even though that wasn't a team that we saw all the time. They're not in our division, so it just comes down to scheduling whether we play them or not. But there's a piece of hardware on the line in that game. That's a rival. But like I said, Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Toledo, Ball State, NIU. That was your West Division for the MAC. Once again, media markets. Ohio, I got nothing personal against Ohio, but I think Joakim Noah said it best. He would talk so much shit about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Nobody wants to go to Cleveland. Nobody cares about Cleveland. Nobody. And it's crazy because, like, Cleveland, I mean, that would be your definition of blue collar, middle of America, just straight up American mid-level city. Like Cleveland is a major city. Like, it's not a Chicago, it's not a New York, it's not, right? That's not Cleveland, Ohio. But you have all 3 major sports, right? You got major sports. You got the Cleveland, wait, what are they even called? That's how I got that much hate for them that I didn't forgot the name of the team. The Cleveland, I can't even think of it. I'm sorry, the Cleveland Indians. But I know they're not called the Indians anymore. I can't even think of it. The Browns and the Cavs. I would say, I mean, Cleveland has to be, I would think, if I'm just putting money on something, Cleveland has to be the biggest media market in Ohio. It got to be. There's no way it's not. Columbus would probably be second, right? You got Cleveland, you got Cincinnati, you got Columbus. I would consider, this actually might be a little tighter than it's getting interesting. I would still say Cleveland. Cleveland may be more of the media market of the 3. Because like I said, you're looking for the places that have pro sports teams. Because, I mean, Cincinnati, you got the Bengals, you got the Reds. They have no professional basketball team, though. Cleveland, you got all 3. It gets a little interesting. You have too much Ohio. There's too much Ohio. And because there's so much Ohio, MAC football, MAC sports, real familiar in Ohio. Of course it is. Because you have 6 schools 6 schools make up that damn conference. And the MAC doesn't understand, or at least they should understand, but I don't think they really see how problematic that can be to have 6 schools from one state make up your conference. I'm pretty sure the MAC is the only conference with that many schools from one state being represented. Even when I go and look at the Pac-12 before it fell apart, you had USC, UCLA, Stanford, and Cal. That's 4 California schools. But keep in mind, the population in California, much larger than the population of Ohio. And those are 4 major universities. Just 4. That's it. They weren't going anything over that. A ton of schools in California. But they're like, we got UCLA, USC, Stanford, UC Berkeley. We're not adding anybody else anytime soon. That's it. 4. Even when you look at the Mountain West, Fresno State, San Diego State, San Jose State. I'm pretty sure those are your 3 California representatives for the Mountain West Conference. Nobody else. You look all around this damn ACC, Duke, North Carolina, NC State. I feel like I might be forgetting one other. Is Wake Forest, Carolina? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So that's what, 4? That's 4 schools. That's 4 North Carolina schools right there. 4. At the end of the day, you had a conference that got 6. If Buffalo was not so damn far east, if Buffalo was not in the MAC, and let's say it was Western Kentucky instead, the Eastern Division of the MAC would have been all Ohio teams. That is not okay. Because what that does for your media rights is gets you a whole lot of nothing. If Ohio was California instead, okay, we might be able to work with 6 California schools all in one damn division of your conference. You have 6 Ohio schools, and then you got 3 Michigan schools. And these 3 Michigan schools, I can't even remember which one is the closest one to Detroit. So, yeah. And even then, the Detroit media market, I would assume that is decent, but it ain't like, it's not a top 5 market. Not that I believe. I don't think so. Like I said, Chicago's top 3. Chicago's top 3. That's all. I can claim that forever. Chicago's top 3 media market. I don't care what you say. But I know Detroit ain't the top. I don't think it's top 5. I don't even think it's top 10. And like I said, Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, I'm trying to think of which of those 3 is the closest to Detroit. I think it might be Eastern Michigan, I think. Might be wrong. Media markets. Buffalo. I think Buffalo might actually have a decent media market. Ball State, that's in Indiana. Muncie, Indiana. I'm not sure how much that taps into the Indianapolis market. I'd assume that's what it kind of taps into, is into the Indianapolis market a little bit. But even then, the Indianapolis media market ain't all that great. It really ain't. And then you're left with NIU. NIU at least gets to tap into Chicago. That is probably your one saving grace. That's your one saving grace, is NIU being able to tap into Chicago. The MAC, for anybody who thinks the MAC is going to get a better deal. Okay, the MAC added UMass. So now we're just randomly expanded all the way to Massachusetts. You could try to sit there and be like, oh, we got Boston now. We got Boston. Technically, on paper, you could say that. Boston, a stronger media rights, a stronger media market than most of Ohio cities. But is it enough to have moved the needle that much? Not really. Not really. Not really. The MAC, somebody said something crazy. The MAC, MAC needs to try to add UConn. First of all, UConn would have only joined the MAC maybe for football only. Maybe. That would have been a football only thing. Because UConn basketball don't want nothing to do with the MAC. That would be an insult to them. So we would have UConn in name only. Like, that would have been we got UConn. Y'all ain't got UConn basketball. We got UConn football. Which is okay. UConn football probably would have fit right in with the MAC, in all honesty. Like, they're rebuilding. They're on the rise right now. They're trying to make it back up. Yeah. It's not good. And people have to understand this. The max media right deal is going to expire 2027. Mountain West Conferences expires 2026. What do you notice the Mountain West Conference doing? They're trying to move around and add look at the composition of the Mountain West Conference. Like I said, they had 3 California teams. You do have 2 Nevada teams. But then everything else is kind of nicely spaced out, right? They did not put themselves in a situation where let's just bunch everything all up together and shoot ourselves in the foot. You got Colorado, right? Because you still have Air Force. You still got Colorado. They lost Colorado State. Yeah. Air Force is there. You still got Colorado. San Jose is still there. So you still have a California presence. You just added UTEP. UTEP actually taps into not only Texas, but also New Mexico. Now, we already had New Mexico, but you have Texas and New Mexico a little bit, right? El Paso. You got El Paso. There's a reason why they want Texas State. They want Texas State bad. Mountain West Conference needs to spin the block and do whatever they need to do to get Texas State, because Texas State gets you 30-something minutes away from Austin, Texas. That's a nice little spot to be in. Where Texas State is literally like between San Antonio and Austin. A bit closer to Austin, though. That's the reason why Texas State was like a top target for them. Right? They wanted Texas State. They want Texas State bad. And they still want and need Texas State, in all honesty. Because now you would have 2 Texas schools, which should actually be a good thing for Texas State. So, like I said, we said Colorado. We got UNLV. So we got Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Like, right now, out of all the schools that are still Mountain West, you can view UNLV essentially kind of like as the leader school. Right? Like, as of right now on paper, UNLV, that's probably your highest media market. That's your best performing school. Now, keep in mind, Boise State and everybody's all still there. They're all still there. Right? So at the end of the year, all these numbers will still count toward the Mountain West, but not really. It's weird, right? It's almost like they're more kind of counting towards the pack because these schools are clearly leaving and joining the pack as soon as this is over. So, yeah. New Mexico, we're not gonna talk about New Mexico. But there's a like I said, the key thing is like they're hitting multiple markets. That's very strategic. They're hitting multiple markets. And even though they have communicated FCS, moving schools from the FCS to the FBS is somewhat of an option, it's really all media market game. Like, Sacramento State has the best chance of actually legitimately becoming a Mountain West target or an actual getting an offer because of Sacramento State, right? Like I said, you get a presence back in California. You want California, Sacramento, San Jose, right? You're getting more of the California viewership. Like you want those TVs in California. That's where NIU came into play. I can promise you, if NIU was unable to tap into Chicago, NIU probably isn't a legitimate target for the Mountain West. But because NIU can tap into Chicago, NIU is a legitimate target for the Mountain West. NIU is also a legitimate target for the PAC. It is not completely impossible for NIU to get a football-only offer from the PAC. Right now, schools or these conferences, they're both in situations where they're figuring things out. The Mountain West needs, and it most likely will happen, but they need Hawaii to become a full member. Once they become a full member, now the Mountain West can continue trying to add who they're trying to add. So right now, I'm pretty damn sure they're working out what they need to work out with Hawaii to make them the 8th full member. While they're doing that, they're compiling the list, they're running the data, they're crunching the numbers, and they're like, okay, who is it that we need to go after? We need to look at potentially the FCS level and potentially these other conferences. Do we go back to Texas State? And if I'm them, I'm going back to Texas State. I'm like, Texas State, that $8 million you got to pay to lead the Sun Belt, we will help you with that. Don't worry about it. We will help you with that. That is a non-issue. We got you. That's Texas State. NIU, you want them for football only. Getting NIU actually helps the Mountain West a lot. Because like I said, you're getting a football program that's solid. And you're also getting Chicago TVs. Are you getting all the Chicago TVs? Hell no. But you get to tap into that market. You do. You get to tap into that market. Toledo, I think the play on Toledo, if I'm thinking about where Toledo is, I don't know if I think Toledo taps into Cleveland a little bit. I believe so. I'm gonna have to go look at the map because maybe I'm looking at things wrong. But I believe Toledo taps into Cleveland's media market a bit. And Toledo's also a very good football team. This is me as an NIU fan, just out loud said, Toledo has a very good football team. They do. Let's not bullshit it. They do. Some of the greatest MAC memories I have typically are the NIU Toledo football game. Because it's almost every time gonna be back to back to back. It's almost always a shootout. There was one year where it wasn't a shootout and NIU beat the hell out of Toledo. But it was still a shootout. It was just a one-sided shootout. It was rough. I felt bad for Toledo at that point because NIU showed no mercy. They just ran up the score. It was what it was. There's been some years where Toledo beat the hell out of us. It was what it was. the media rights payout, whether NIU fans or any of these fans want to think, oh, the Mountain West Conference, they're probably going to get less than what they're currently getting. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true. The Mountain West Conference, if you notice these media deals, the way they work, there's typically an increase. That's the reason why a lot of them, they try to stick to like 6-year increments. That's what I've been noticing, 6 years. If you do 10 years, typically you're asking for a bit more. But if you do these little 6-year increments, right, you get to essentially negotiate for a new deal, get a bigger pie to distribute to your conference on a lot quicker basis. Their deal expires 2026. That's the huge thing with them right now, because it's like, NIU, do you want to jump into a conference that just lost 5 schools? And those 5 schools were considered the better schools in the conference? Yeah. If the Mountain West can bring in Texas State, if Toledo's like, you know, we're down, so that's NIU, Texas State, Toledo, you have now, 11 schools? It does become, you need one more. It does turn into that. In all honesty, I'm like, yo, if I'm the Mountain West, that's where you got to make a run at, like, Sam Houston. You got to. I'd say you turn around, you try your hardest to get Texas State. You try to get Texas State, you get Sam Houston. You now have Houston. You now have a school that's right down there by Austin and not that far from San Antonio as well. The reason why San Antonio might not be the big catch when it comes to Texas State, because there is UT San Antonio. Like, they're already straight up in San Antonio. Like, that is their home base. So in reality, you're going for Texas State to get a little bit more, to dip into Austin a little bit when it comes to the media market. But like I said, you also will dip into San Antonio probably a little bit. You go, you get Texas State. Like, you got to push for Texas State. Do what you got to do to make Texas State happen. NIU, Toledo, to me, that's a package deal. I don't know if NIU is going. If Toledo ain't going, I don't know if Toledo's going, if NIU ain't going. But you kind of need both. Like, that would be very beneficial if you can get both. And then I say you push for Sam Houston. If I had to pick, because I'm like, there really ain't no other options in the Sun Belt. There really ain't. Besides NIU and Toledo, there's no other options really in the MAC. You have the Conference USA, which is in a weird spot because the Conference USA has New Mexico State, and you'd probably be sitting there like, why not just take New Mexico State? From what I keep hearing, there's some level of pettiness between New Mexico and New Mexico State. Like, New Mexico is the reason why New Mexico State is not in the Mountain West. So, yeah. And Sam Houston, looking at them right now, and they've barely been in at the FBS level. Like, they're fairly new and fresh. Sam Houston doing pretty dang decent football-wise. Yeah. I am pushing for Sam Houston. I'm pushing for Sam Houston. Sam Houston and Texas State. Sam Houston, I'm ranking those two higher than NIU and Toledo. I'm aiming for Sam Houston and Texas State. You get Sam Houston, you get Texas State. At that point, it would be almost kind of crazy to think NIU and Toledo wouldn't join. That would be too much of an opportunity missed. Because if you're adding Sam Houston, you're adding Texas State, you're trying to add them as full members, first of all. So You got UTEP, so you have a Texas presence already. You add Sam Houston, you add Texas State, you now have 3 Texas schools. So you're all in the state of Texas, which to me for Texas State would be a bit of a benefit because right now they're in a conference where I believe they're the only Texas school. Well, now you can get some more in-state rivalry, some more in-state blood, some more in-state things going, you know? I would want to be in a conference where I'm not the only school from my state. And Texas is a big enough state where, yeah, Texas State, UTEP, Sam Houston, that's 3 Texas schools. You get NIU and Toledo. You got 5. Right? That's your 12 right there. If I'm Mountain West, if I'm the Mountain West, I would actually look to benefit my schools by doing divisions. I would do divisions. I know a lot of schools are getting away from divisions, but I would actually do divisions. I'd be like, okay, NIU and Toledo, especially because at that point, Toledo would be your furthest east school. And I want to say Toledo is actually in the Eastern time zone. So, yeah. If you could put NIU and Toledo back in a division together, Sam Houston, Texas State, UTEP, right? So now you have, right, those 5 are together for sure. And then let's say you add New Mexico. You add New Mexico. I think that would be the last team that kind of works to add. Or, I mean, it don't even got to be them. You could add maybe Air Force or not. I mean, yeah, actually, I think Air Force works. You could get away with adding Air Force. I think you can get away with adding Air Force. That could work. That could work. Yeah, I think you can add Air Force. If not Air Force, New Mexico. That's a division right there. Your other division, Hawaii, San Jose, UNLV, Reno, Wyoming, and who am I missing? I'm pretty sure I just said the school. What did I say? I said Hawaii, San Jose, Air Force, Wyoming, UNLV, and Reno. That's a division. NIU, Toledo, Texas State, Texas State, UTEP, Sam Houston, New Mexico. That's a division. There you go. Some people may be like, oh, well, divisions are dry, divisions are stale, mix it up. I get what you're saying. But for the sake of travel, for the sake of some consistency, this, that, the other, right? That would probably be the reason why you do that, right? That would probably be the reason why you do that. Can NIU bust down to Texas? Technically, they could, but they probably still just fly down. Yeah, it's a quicker flight. So what you're doing by doing that, you're helping out these new schools you just added when it comes to at least travel and things like that, right? If these Texas schools get to just travel in Texas, and then, yeah, they'd have to go up north to Ohio and then to Illinois, and then they go over to New Mexico, that's not an issue. Versus I'm Texas State and I'm playing San Jose State. I'm Texas State and I'm playing Wyoming. It would be the same concern NIU having to play San Jose State, NIU playing Wyoming, right? I'd say they do divisions. But if you can get all those schools, this would, like I said, this is what you gotta understand. Those are some solid media markets. Those are some you just added Houston, Chicago. You're dipping into Austin, and I want to say San Antonio, El Paso, I believe Toledo technically kind of dips into Cleveland. I'm pretty sure. Right? I think the Mountain West Conference will have essentially done a pretty solid job rebuilding. They will have done a solid job rebuilding based on those media markets. You're not necessarily looking at the school. Look at the media markets. Once again, Chicago, I want to say Cleveland, Houston, El Paso, and kind of this hybrid Austin, San Antonio. But I want to say Austin more than San Antonio. That's pretty dang good. Because you would have been losing Boise, media market wise. Here's the thing that's weird about Boise State. Media market wise, Boise ain't the greatest media market. But the thing is, the team is so damn good that it draws the viewership that it draws. If Boise State was not as good as they were, it would be rough. It would be rough. I'm not going to lie. But because Boise State is as good as they are, they're able to draw the viewership that they draw. That's the facts. Like I said, when you got San Diego, solid media market. Fresno State, I want to say that's the Inland Empire, right? Fresno, California, Inland Empire. That's kind of like suburbs of LA type of thing. Well, is it even the suburbs of LA? I want to say it is, right? But the Inland Empire, that's a nice media market, I would say, right? You're tapping into a bunch of TVs right there, right? When it comes to Colorado State and Utah State, I mean, between Colorado State and Utah State, I would probably rank Colorado State viewership higher than Utah State's. Yeah. But like I said, the Mountain West Conference seems like they're doing a pretty decent job of being very strategic. In the Mountain West Conference, I don't think that they've given up on Texas State. I don't know if what else they're doing is just they're kind of viewing things as, any next moves we make, these are going to be football only offers or something like that. Like I said, it seems right now they're focused. They're focused on Hawaii getting full membership. Like I said, I don't understand. Like I said, Sam Houston is pretty new to the FBS level. So I don't know if there's something particular when it comes to Sam Houston and them being able to leave the Conference USA or anything like that. I couldn't imagine the exit fee or whatever from the Conference USA. Like, it can't be anything stupid. Like, it can't be anything crazy. If anything, we should be able... UTEP, but then again, like I said, UTEP, I don't know how long UTEP has been in the Conference USA. Probably a bit longer. You might be able to find out from UTEP. I mean, I would think, what does it cost? What would it be for Sam Houston to leave? But like I said, if I'm targeting anybody, Sam Houston is the obvious target. New Mexico State, I don't see them going after New Mexico State. If they can't get Sam Houston, I know a lot of people are like, well, you got the Dakotas, you got the Montanas, you got... From a media market standpoint, Mountain West is looking for very particular things. Adding the Dakotas does not strengthen that. Adding the Montanas does not strengthen that. We all know that they're good teams, hands down. These are good teams. But they are still, sadly, virtually unknown. True college football fans know about the Dakota schools, right? They know. They know. Like, these schools are good. Like, they're legit. The regular everyday college football fan who's just cheering for the specific team they cheer for, they don't know. That is the reason why when Colorado played, was it North Dakota State or South Dakota? Whichever one of the Dakotas they played, you had to hear the announcers tell folks, like, this ain't just a pushover team. This ain't a pushover game. Colorado has to be on their P's and Q's because this is a team that could beat them. And then you watch the game and you're like, oh, yeah, this ain't a pushover team. This ain't a pushover school. These dudes are legit. They're for real. Were they not? They were. And they did exactly what I thought they would. They could have won that game. They could have. They got it in them. That's a good team at the FCS level. But adding the Dakotas or adding Montana and Montana State, right? I think what the Mountain West Conference needs to do first, they work out a new deal. Or no, first, they need to land the schools they need to land. You got to recruit. You treating this like this is that 5-star prospect who you're viewing as a program changer. This dude is a stud quarterback, a stud running back, a stud wide receiver, 5-star prospect. Your school ain't never had a 5-star prospect. And he's local, born and raised. He's been a fan of the school his whole life. And that might be the only reason you even on the list. Is because he's like, you know what? I could be that guy that puts this school on the map because I'm that dang good. And I'm going to get some other guys to come here. So you're recruiting your life away. Mountain West, that's kind of what they got to do. But even then, let's say Mountain West can't get Sam Houston. Let's say Mountain West can't get Texas State. You got a Sacramento State, which is literally sitting there saying, like, we want to move up. We got the city of Sacramento behind us. Yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. You could potentially add them. Why? Because the media market works. So Mountain West Conference is playing the media market game. PAC, on the other hand, is playing not necessarily the media market game, but they're more in the... They're taking a different approach. They're going more by brand visibility. And I get that. That makes a lot of sense, too. That's why you added Gonzaga, right? Their next target is probably going to be St. Mary's. Me, personally, I think that they're going to go Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and also add Creighton. You just turned that conference into a pretty solid basketball conference. And now that you have a pretty solid basketball conference on that end, and your media evaluation, your media rights evaluation is probably a little bit higher than folks are expecting it to be, now you can go to the AAC and be like, Memphis, are y'all interested? And like I said, sad reality is this: money talks. Money talks. If the AAC is able to approach Memphis and be like, we can give y'all a 10 mil payout, right? This is our plan. This is all confidential. None of this leaves this meeting, yada, yada, yada. But this is what we're looking to do. We have these schools. These are the potential schools we want to bring in. And if we can bring you all in, here's what the payout would be. I think the PAC, they're going to have their basketball-only members. And then I think they'll have maybe one or two more all sports members, or maybe even just the football and basketball only member. And then they'll have some football only. Like, they have ways, they got routes they can go with this. They really do. And I think that's the reason why Memphis shot things down the first time. They were like, this deal don't work for us. But if you're like, we want you for basketball and football, basketball would be you, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Creighton, I want to say Utah State has a good basketball team, right? Just Memphis, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Creighton alone, that's a real solid four. That's a solid four teams right there. That's a real good four. That same approach, if you get Memphis in there, so now you got those four, you can best believe Pac is going to go back and try to get UConn. Because now you can say to UConn, look at all these schools we got. I'm going to say Washington State also had a good basketball team. So Washington State was one of the better Pac, when they were all still together, one of the better Pac basketball teams. So you have a solid basketball conference, hands down. They spin the block, and they're like, we can pay you this much. We want football as well. So we want football and basketball. Don't just think basketball is the only target. We all know what y'all can do in basketball, hands down. But we want football as well. We want to we want to share the wealth. If you get UConn, Memphis, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Creighton, Washington State, Utah State, low key, that's a pretty nice stacked-ish basketball conference. It really is. Like, that's solid. That's super solid. I would consider that one of the top three. And those would be some interesting games to watch, because now you got teams playing each other who a lot of times might not see each other until the NCAA tournament. You got teams playing each other that might not see each other until some little tournament or invitational they're playing in. These are teams that you're going to create some, like, you're going to have viewership that's going to be kind of crazy. You're going to have some viewership that's going to be kind of nice, kind of wild. The numbers are going to be up, right? You get a UConn versus Gonzaga. Like, people going to show up for that, hands down, right? Memphis versus St. Mary's, like, I never seen that matchup. I'm going to that game. People are going to show up for that. And if you do that on the basketball, and like I said, they just added them for football and for basketball. Football and for basketball. Like I said, you now have a really strong basketball conference. Like I said, you've added Memphis and UConn. You're at 10 football teams. I know a lot of people are saying they're going to go after Tulane. They're going to go after UTSA. UTSA geographically probably works better, a bit better. And then people are even saying USF. I don't know if USF makes that cut necessarily. Tulane might. UTSA might. If you add, like I said, you add Memphis, Tulane, and UTSA, and they're all playing football, you're at 10 for football. UConn, 11. That might be the only reason you really add USF, because you want that even number. You want the even number for football. But then also, once again, that's where things can get crazy, and you can just out of left field. And the Pac invites Northern Illinois to join for football only. People would be stunned by this. They'd be confused. They would be lost. But anybody with some slight common sense would be like, Chicago media market. That's what they're willing to tap into. Because you ain't adding Northwestern. You ain't adding U of I. But you have NIU sitting there. They're a solid football team. It doesn't hurt to add them. Branding, marketing. There you go. However many teams you now have, because you're going to have a nice, weird number of teams, but they could probably pull off a media rights deal that would kind of have to they might get a number that's pretty significant. I think they could get a number that's super significant. Right? They could get a number that's super significant. I've pointed this out. I created a post on Facebook the other day that pointed out the people who complain about travel. And it was based on, I put numbers together based on if NIU was in the Mountain West Conference, football only, and they had 4 away games. Their 4 away games were San Jose, Wyoming, UNLV, and Reno. Those are our 4 away games. Did the math on that. If they charter flights and it's $5,000 per hour, there and back for those 4 games, you're looking at roughly $170,000. Now, that seems like a lot, right? It seems like a lot, but if your media rights payout, if what you got coming in is $5, $6, $7 million, $170,000 is a drop in the bucket. That's a non-issue. Now, that would just be the flights for the team and the coaches, right? You still got to get your equipment and all that stuff trucked around the country. So let's add another, we're at 170. Let's say that that's going to run you a good another 50K. I don't know. See, that's the one thing. I don't know the number on that one. But flying versus trucking, flying, I'm sure that's going to cost more than hauling equipment. I would think that hauling that equipment, let's say that's even 100K for those 4 games. Maybe that is 100K. Maybe it's $25,000 there and back each time. Maybe it is, for all I know. Maybe that's it. Okay, you're at 270K. But you know you got a check that's gonna come in for 5, 6, 7, whatever million bucks. That is a drop in the bucket. That is a price you pay. People got to realize and understand, when teams fly, like this is a normal thing that's going on. When teams fly, they come into town, they hop on that bus, they get to the stadium or wherever they're going, most likely, typically the stadium. They get to the stadium, they're in the locker room, they're prepped, they're doing whatever they're doing. You know, maybe there's some sort of food situation too. You know, that's a little something. You got to realize those teams fly in, they go and compete. They might eat most likely after that, and they're back on the plane and they're headed back home. They're typically not staying another day. Those teams fly back the same night. They fly back the same night. If NIU has college football, right? We end up with a 7 p.m. Pacific, a 7 p.m. Pacific game, right? We're playing San Jose. We fly in, we actually get a couple hours back, which is interesting, right? We get a couple hours back. We fly in, 7 is when that game started. That game probably gonna end 9:30, 10 o'clock. Yeah, here's the reality. Those guys are gonna be on a plane and heading back home that night after the game. And that's just what it is. All that could happen. They left on Saturday morning, got there, did whatever they did, played the game, back home. It's now Sunday, rest, recover. And then we continue on. I got people talking about the wear and tear, this, that, the other. Bro, it's college sports. It's college sports. I would rather be on a plane flying across the country than being on a bus. And you have to realize this. Because we're in the MAC, we bus to all those games. It's a longer bus ride than it is a flight. Think about that. It is a longer bus ride than it is a flight. I can get to San Jose from Chicago. And most likely, we wouldn't even be flying out of Chicago. But when I ran these numbers and did all that, it did it based on Chicago, right? It did it based on O'Hare or whatever. If we're chartering, NIU fans know we can take a plane out of DeKalb because we did it for the Orange Bowl. So it's possible, it is possible to get a plane in DeKalb amazingly. So that's a benefit. That's a plus. We got just enough runway to make it happen. We charter that plane and we fly into San Jose. That is about a 4.5 hour flight, I believe. Right? The time to get to UNLV or to Reno, the time is basically the same. The time to get to a Wyoming, I want to say that was like 4.5 hours. It is doable. I'd rather have our guys on a flight, relaxing, than sitting in a bus for hours on end. Because I can promise you, the ride from DeKalb to Toledo, it ain't forever, but it's a long ride. It ain't the most comfortable ride, I'm sure. But, yeah. The brand, the opportunity to the footprint, all of those things. You get more out of leaving the MAC. Sad reality. I don't trust the MAC to truly get a better deal, right? Even if they stop messing with ESPN and whatnot. It would be a hard sell because the MAC is almost just regional. Like the MAC, like I just said, you have 6 Ohio schools and 3 Michigan schools. Yes, you're adding UMass. You're adding Boston, I guess you could say. You're adding UMass. That ain't enough of an addition to be like, we're bumping up and everybody's getting $3 million a year. I don't see it. I think the MAC, the most they might be able to squeeze out is a deal where they're getting, like I said, maybe a $2 million a year payout. And that wouldn't be because, oh, well, the MAC did some sort of super excellent negotiating. That would be because of inflation. That would be because that's an easy deal when you think about it. You want to know what they're going to do? They're going to look at, okay, what are we paying Sunbelt? How much are they getting? This is what we can offer you. That's what they're going to do. And guess what? The next time the Sunbelt goes to renew their contract, the Sunbelt's going to make more than us. That's what's going to happen. And it sucks. And people have to understand and realize having 6 Ohio schools and 3 Michigan schools all in the same conference is not the super blessing that people think it is when it comes to a media rights payout. If anything, that's a nightmare when it comes to a media rights payout. It's no bueno. Your footprint isn't large enough. It's not large enough. You're not hitting all these different... You're not. These conferences, the conferences They're looking for what are the pros and cons to adding your school. Media market, footprint, performance. Right. They're looking at multiple different things. Why should we add you to our conference? Why should we allow you to get a piece of the pie? Like I said, Mountain West Conference has showed interest in NIU and Toledo. Like I said, there's two things they got to be looking at. They know NIU has a good football program, and they know the media market that's right there. It would be huge for Mountain West. Same thing goes for the Pac, and potentially it's probably what's going to happen to the American. Like I said, pretty sure the Pac is going to go after these AAC schools. I got a good feeling these schools are going to join the Pac. And if they don't even join the Pac, there's multiple ways things can go. But that was a video I already recorded. It's going to create openings. It's going to create openings. There's a chance where NIU could end up in the Mountain West. There's a chance NIU can end up in the Pac as a football-only member, as well as the Mountain West as football-only. There's a chance NIU could end up in the American. There's chances. There's opportunities. It can happen. A.D. Frazier, I'm pretty sure he's keeping things close to the chest. You don't hear a whole lot. You ain't seeing a whole lot. And I'm pretty sure he has these same exact thoughts. He sees what's happening. And he's going to do what's in the best interest of the school and the university. Of course, you know, I'm pretty sure everybody has to be in agreement. It's not just a decision he could make. It would be crazy. Truly crazy. If President Freeman was like, yeah, no, we're staying in the MAC. That type of stuff, if I'm the athletic, I'm probably leaving. I'm being straight up. If I was the athletic director and we're at the meeting and we're like, we got this offer from do-do-do-do-do, I need signatures from y'all three, including myself. Here's the money we would be bringing in. If that got shot down, that is not a university I'm trying to be the athletic director of. I don't want no parts of that. I don't want to be directing your athletics if y'all not trying to get with the money on. Y'all don't want the money coming in because we have not tasted it ever. We've been doing all of what we've been doing purely based off of blood, sweat, and tears. And now for the first time y'all can get a piece of the pie, y'all don't want it. That don't make sense. I need people to get it together. Ohio. The MAC is the Ohio and Michigan Conference. That's what it is. It's Ohio and Michigan. That's what the MAC is. NIU needs to get out of that. Geographically, yes, it works. But we're at a point where it's like we gotta grow up. Opportunities are gonna be there. Pac, AAC hasn't presented itself just yet, but I got a feeling it's going to. Pac, Mountain West. Pac, Mountain West. It's called leverage. If the Mountain West makes NIU an official offer, if the Mountain West makes NIU something official, it would be crazy for NIU to not have some sort of talks with the Pac and be like, look, Mountain West wants to add us. Football only. That's fine with us. What are y'all looking for? What do y'all need? This is what we have to offer. And we see what y'all got going on. We just want to hear some things out. We just want to see. That's what I would want my athletic director to do, because you can't necessarily just sit on an offer and do nothing. You got to be proactive at that point. It's just like with your job. You're working somewhere and you want a pay raise, guess what you do? You can hire, I believe you can hire somebody to go out there and they'll give you a report and they will be like, based on your years of experience and your position and da-da-da, this is how much you could be making elsewhere. And guess what? You may go apply somewhere else. You may interview. You might actually get that offer at the other place. Your intention is to stay where you are. You like it. You like the people. You just want what you're owed. Well, guess what? You get an offer from somewhere else for 50% more than what you're making now. Guess what you can now do? You can go to your job, go to the powers that be like, look, I got an offer for this much. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here, but can y'all match that? Can y'all make that happen? If you truly have the value that you know you have, then they will. People got to start playing the game. I need NIU fans to get with the program. We cannot be sitting here be like, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. This ain't going to happen. This will never happen. Da-da-da. I'm like, bro, we going to be broke forever. We ain't never going to have nothing nice. It ain't never going to happen because we going to be stuck where we at forever because people was scared to move on. The more fans that show support for a move, for a change, they get to communicating, the higher likelihood that it'll happen. I mean, it can happen without us regardless. Thank God that there's people who, like, that's their actual job. Like, there's a reason why there's an athletic director. There's a reason why that individual knows what they're doing. They're going to make that call regardless of what the fans want. But when you show support for it, you're making that person's job even easier. You're making that person want to work even harder to get it done. People got to get with the program. Quit talking about travel cost. Quit talking about, oh, they won't make no money. Their new deal is going to be less. The Mountain West knows what they're doing. I can see the strategy. There's a reason why Texas State is who they went after. There's a reason why UTEP is who they went after. There's a reason why they're trying to get Hawaii as a full member. They're trying to make specific things happen. There's a reason why NIU and Toledo are schools of interest. There's reasons. People have to be ready for the change, embrace the change, and then just keep on supporting the school and the teams. Peace.